You know humanity's doomed when people start demanding refunds from nature. Somewhere out there, a tourist actually complained that the sunset was too orange, as if the planet's color grading needed an update. They're a window into a world where common sense went on vacation and never came back. And trust me, we haven't even gotten to the good ones yet. 1. A woman in Florida complained that the ocean was too loud. She said the crashing waves kept her awake at night and wanted the resort to turn them down after 10 p.m. I can't decide what's worse. The idea that she thought the Atlantic came with a volume knob, or that she might have actually expected someone to find it. Somewhere, Poseidon is reading her Yelp review like, "Lady, I am the noise complaint." It's the kind of feedback that makes you wonder if evolution just took a personal day. 2. A man on a Caribbean cruise filed a formal complaint because the sea air was too salty. That's right, he was angry that the ocean smelled like the ocean. This is like going to a steakhouse and complaining the cow tasted too beefy. He insisted the crew should use fresher air, which I assume would involve vacuum sealing the atmosphere. The captain apparently tried to explain how oceans work, but honestly, there's no defense against someone who believes humidity is a customer service issue. 3. A family visiting Hawaii demanded a refund because the volcano wasn't erupting. They said they came all this way for the experience, as if lava flow was supposed to perform on command. Imagine yelling at a mountain like it's an understudy that forgot its lines. Nature isn't Netflix, Brenda. You can't just click next eruption. They left a 1-star review that said, "False advertising, no molten activity." Somewhere, Pele, the Hawaiian goddess of volcanoes, is rolling her eyes so hard she's causing tectonic movement. 4. A man at a luxury hotel in Mexico complained that there were too many Mexicans. His review literally said, "Felt very foreign." Congratulations, sir. You've just reinvented the concept of travel. That's like visiting Italy and saying, "Way too much pasta and Catholicism for my taste." The staff politely reminded him that yes, Mexico is, in fact, full of Mexicans. He gave them 2 stars anyway, one for effort and one for the sheer audacity of geography. 5. A guest at a resort in the Bahamas complained that the beach was too sandy. Not dirty, not crowded, just too sandy. I don't know what they expected. Carpet, maybe a nice tile finish. Their review said, "The sand got everywhere," which is basically what sand has been doing for 4 billion years. That's not a complaint. That's a feature. You came to the beach and discovered sand. That's not disappointment. That's literacy. 6. A couple in Italy wrote that their romantic gondola ride was ruined because the gondolier wouldn't stop singing. That's right. The man operating a Venetian gondola committed the crime of being authentic. They said his singing was too distracting, like they booked Italy expecting a silent Uber experience on water. Somewhere, an Italian opera singer just felt a disturbance in the force. 7. A woman visiting Paris complained that the Eiffel Tower looked smaller in person. That's not a review. That's an optical illusion caused by her expectations being taller than her intelligence. She said, "They made it look bigger in pictures, as if Paris is running a catfish account for architecture." She even asked for a refund because it didn't feel grand enough. You flew across the Atlantic to roast a landmark because you brought emotional baggage and a measuring tape. Bravo. 8. A man in Alaska demanded compensation because it was too cold. He said he expected snow, but not that much snow, which is like moving to Florida and being shocked by humidity, the one thing it's famous for. He even asked the hotel to provide a temperature guarantee, as though God himself should issue coupons for frostbite. The front desk reportedly offered him a blanket and a clue. 9. A woman in Greece left a review saying she was disappointed because there were too many ruins. She said everything looked old and broken, as if she expected ancient temples to come with a fresh coat of paint and Wi-Fi. That's like visiting a museum and asking, "Why is everything so historical?" She complained that the buildings looked like they'd been through something. Yeah, it's called history. 10. A man visiting Japan complained that not enough people spoke English. He said it made him feel unwelcome in Japan. That's the equivalent of walking into a sushi restaurant and demanding a cheeseburger. His one-star review literally ended with, "They should adapt to international guests." Imagine the confidence of a man whose entire personality is spelled with Google Translate. 11. A tourist in Scotland complained that the castle was too old. She said it smelled weird and should be updated. The structure in question was built in the 1400s. Ma'am, that's not outdated, that's historic. That's like saying this dinosaur skeleton could use a paint job. Maybe what she wanted was a medieval themed Starbucks. She gave it 2 stars for poor maintenance, which is impressive considering it survived sieges. 12. A man visiting New York complained that there were too many people walking fast. His exact words, "It felt aggressive." Sir, that's not aggression. That's survival instinct. You entered a city where hesitation gets you trampled by a guy holding 3 coffees and a dream. He said he preferred a more relaxed pace, which for New York means standing still and being absorbed into traffic. 13. A family in London complained that the food tasted British. That's not even an insult. That's just a scientific observation. They said everything was too beige and polite. Look, nobody goes to London for culinary enlightenment. You go for history, sarcasm, and the thrill of paying $18 for beans on toast. They ended their review with, "Wouldn't recommend to Americans who like flavor," which is brave coming from a nation whose cuisine invented ranch dressing on pizza. 14. A man at a luxury resort in Thailand complained that there were too many monks. He said they made him feel guilty for drinking. Yes, nothing ruins a vacation like spiritual presence. He said they should keep religion away from tourist areas, as if monks are emotional support dogs that can be relocated. The irony is he was staying at a temple-adjacent retreat. You can't complain about monks in Thailand. That's like complaining about sand at the beach. Oh, wait, we already did that. 15. A woman in Switzerland complained that the mountains blocked her view. Her hotel overlooked the Alps, but she said they were too tall and obstructive. She literally wanted the Alps, the most famous mountain range in Europe, to be shorter. That's like visiting the Sahara and saying, "Too much sand, not enough target." She wanted a refund because her Instagram photos looked unbalanced. Nature doesn't take design requests, Karen. 16. A man in Orlando complained that Disney World was too childish. He said it wasn't as sophisticated as I expected. Sir, the mouse mascot should have been your first clue. You willingly walked into a place where grown adults pay $12 for a churro and call it magic. That's like attending a Nickelback concert and being shocked it's not Mozart. You didn't buy tickets to culture, you bought nostalgia with a side of glitter. 17. A couple visiting Egypt complained that the pyramids had no elevators. Their review said climbing them was exhausting and not handicap-friendly. You're right. The ancient Egyptians really dropped the ball on ADA compliance 5,000 years ago. They also whined that the pyramids were too dusty. I hate to break it to them, but yes, the desert has sand. You don't need a complaint form. You need a map and maybe a clue. 18. A tourist in Iceland left a review complaining that the northern lights weren't bright enough for Instagram. She said the colors looked washed out and demanded a more saturated version. Apparently, she thought the aurora borealis was an LED light show programmed for her phone camera. She even asked if the hotel could turn them up a bit next time. Yes, Greta, let me just email the sun and ask it to adjust its particle emissions for your selfie aesthetic. She gave Iceland 2 stars, writing, "Cool concept, poor execution, because nothing says cultural humility like rating a cosmic phenomenon the way you'd rate a Target lamp." 19. A man at a 5-star resort in the Maldives demanded a refund because the island was too remote. He said it took forever to get there, as if the whole point of an island paradise wasn't that it's away from everything else. He actually complained that no one told me it was surrounded by water. My brother in Christ, that's literally what an island is. He said it felt isolated, like that was a bug, not the feature. Next time he might try booking a vacation at his local strip mall. Least travel, same intellectual depth. 20. A family in Australia filed a complaint because they didn't see any kangaroos. They expected them to just show up in the hotel lobby like bellhops. They said, "We came all this way for wildlife, and all we got was birds." Yeah, that's nature. Not a zoo, not a Pixar movie, just birds. They even suggested the resort should train kangaroos to appear at breakfast. Because apparently, Australians are just hiding marsupials backstage until the Americans clap loud enough. 21. A woman in Italy complained that pizza tastes different here. She said it wasn't like the real kind from Domino's back home. She actually accused the restaurant of ruining pizza by using weird cheese. I'm sorry, weird Italian cheese. The birthplace of the dish. That's like telling the French they make wine wrong because it doesn't come in a box. She finished her review with, "Not authentic." Ma'am, you're literally eating it in Naples. That's like visiting Mecca and saying the vibe felt off. 22. A couple in Norway demanded a discount because it got dark too early. They said it was like nighttime lasted forever. Congratulations, you've just discovered the Arctic Circle. Apparently, they didn't know that winter in Norway includes something called polar night, where the sun doesn't show up for weeks. They asked if the hotel could do something about the daylight hours. Sure, let me just move the Earth's axis for you. Todd, 23. A man visiting Costa Rica left a furious review because a monkey stole his sunglasses. He said the resort should have trained the wildlife better. Yes, because clearly the monkeys should have read the guest policy. He demanded compensation because the animal was rude. Sir, you're in a jungle, not a Disney park. Monkeys don't owe you manners. They owe you chaos. The funniest part, he went back the next day wearing a new pair, just to prove a point. Guess who lost those too? 24. A tourist in Canada complained that the mountains are too close together. He said the view felt claustrophobic. I didn't realize Mother Nature needed to file building permits. He even suggested they move the peaks further apart to improve visibility. Right, because we can just pop those glaciers on wheels and scoot them over like IKEA furniture. I don't know if he thought Canada was a simulation or if he's just used to living on Google Earth. Zoom back. 25. A woman at a Hawaiian resort complained that the ocean was too blue. She said it looked unnatural, like a fake screensaver. She asked if the resort could use filters to make it look more realistic. Ma'am, it's literally water reflecting the sky, not Pixar's fault, not Photoshop's. She said it made her photos look fake. You know what's fake? Thinking the Pacific Ocean is trying too hard. 26. A man on a safari in Kenya complained that the lions were too far away. He said he didn't pay thousands to see dots through binoculars, which is exactly what people say before becoming the reason there's a do not exit the vehicle rule. He even asked the guide to drive closer to the lions. Yeah, nothing says vacation memories like getting eaten in 4K because you wanted better framing for your Facebook album. 27. A woman on a Caribbean cruise complained that the sea looked the same every day. She said it got boring. Right, because water tends to have a consistent theme. She gave the cruise 2 stars for lack of variety, as though the captain could spice things up by swapping oceans mid-trip. Maybe next time include some mountains. She wrote, "Ma'am, that's not how boats work." 28. A man in Japan wrote that the sushi was too raw. He said it made him uncomfortable and asked if they could cook it next time. That's like going to France and saying the baguette was too bread-like. He called the experience disgusting and said Americans do it better. You know what's raw, sir? That opinion. Somewhere, a sushi chef just quietly retired out of spiritual exhaustion. 29. A couple in Ireland complained that the castles looked too fake. They thought the ruins were movie sets built for tourists. When told the castles were centuries old, they said, "That's impossible. They look staged." Yeah, it's called architecture, not a theme park attraction. They said they wanted something more authentic, like the castles in Game of Thrones. You know, the fictional ones. 30. A man in Alaska left a 1-star review because there were too many mountains. He said it made driving stressful. That's right, he was mad at topography. He wanted the state to flatten out a bit for convenience. This is like moving to New York and complaining about skyscrapers. He called the terrain pretentious, which is a fascinating way to describe rocks. 31. A woman visiting Rome complained that there were too many ruins and not enough Starbucks. She said, "Everything is so old and dusty. You're in Rome, not a suburban mall. The Colosseum wasn't designed for iced lattes and Wi-Fi." She said they should modernize it a little. Yeah, let's just slap a drive-through onto the Pantheon while we're at it. 32. A man at a resort in Dubai complained that the sand wasn't soft enough. He said it hurt his feet and asked if they could replace it with better sand. Yeah, just import new desert. Simple fix. He claimed the resort advertised luxury, so the sand should have been premium grade. I'm sure the Sahara's taking feedback. Maybe they'll upgrade to memory foam dunes next season. 33. A woman in Venice complained that the streets were flooded. She said it was impossible to walk anywhere and that the city should fix its drainage. You're in Venice. The whole point is water instead of roads. She even suggested raising the sidewalks in a city that's literally floating. This woman looked at one of the most unique places on Earth and said, "Have you tried asphalt?" 34. A man visiting Yellowstone National Park complained that there was too much nature. He said it felt unsafe because there weren't enough stores. His review read like he wanted to see bears, but from inside a Target. He wrote, "They should clear some trees so we can see more of the park." Sir, the trees are the park. You don't visit wilderness and then ask to gentrify it. He gave Yellowstone 1 star for being too wild. 35. A tourist in Switzerland complained that the cows had bells and it was annoying. She said the constant clanging ruined the peace and quiet. Ma'am, those are literal Swiss cowbells. You flew across the world to visit the country that invented them. That's like going to Italy and complaining there's too much pasta, or visiting Broadway and asking them to stop all the singing. She wrote that the resort should install noise-canceling headphones on the animals, because nothing says respect for nature like turning livestock into AirPods. 36. A man visiting the Grand Canyon demanded a refund because it's just a hole. He said it didn't look as big in person, as if America's most iconic landmarks somehow shrank to disappoint him personally. He complained that it didn't have any attractions inside, which, yeah, it's a canyon, not a Dave and Buster's. He even suggested they add a roller coaster or something. I love the idea of God carving out one of the world's natural wonders, and this guy responding like a bored theme park critic. 37. A woman in Egypt complained that the desert was too dusty. She said it got in her shoes and wasn't very clean. That's like ordering soup and complaining it's wet. She actually told the tour guide they should sweep it more often. Imagine being so disconnected from reality you want someone to vacuum the Sahara. Somewhere a camel just sighed and kept walking, spiritually done with humanity. 38. A tourist in Norway complained that the fjords didn't look real. She said the water looked photoshopped, like nature's been catfishing her this whole time. She asked if the government painted them for tourists. Yes, clearly every morning, Norway dispatches a team of artists to repaint 800 miles of coastline just to impress influencers. It's the kind of complaint that makes you realize some people don't believe in physics, only filters. 39. A man in Hawaii complained that the rainbows were too frequent. He said it's overdone. It makes them less special. I didn't realize we were reviewing weather patterns like Netflix shows. He gave nature 3 stars for repetitive storytelling. Imagine living in a paradise so beautiful it literally offends you. He even suggested they schedule fewer rainbows per week. I swear, if God ever opens a customer feedback line, Americans are getting blocked first. 40. A woman on safari in South Africa complained that the animals were too wild. She said the lions didn't act friendly like in the movies. Lady, if Simba waves at you, it's not Disney magic, it's hunting instinct. She said they should train them better for tourists. Right, because the whole food chain should pause for your Instagram reel. I can't tell if she wanted a National Geographic experience or a petting zoo. Either way, she's lucky she didn't get both at once. 41. A man visiting China complained that the Great Wall was too long. He said he didn't realize there would be that much walking. That's right, he visited one of humanity's most colossal achievements and said, too much wall. He suggested adding trams or shortcuts. Sir, it's 13,000 miles long. The shortcut is called staying home. The wall survived centuries of Mongol invasions, but apparently not a Fitbit reading. 42. A woman in Iceland complained that the glacier was too cold. She said, no one told me to bring gloves. You went to a frozen continent of ice and got mad that it wasn't tropical. She said the brochure should have warned her how icy it would be. That's like complaining that lava is too hot or that water's too wet. At this point, the glaciers aren't melting from climate change. They're melting out of pure shame. 43. A family visiting Niagara Falls complained that the waterfall never stopped. They said it was too loud and wasteful, like nature forgot to turn off the faucet. They even asked if the government could shut it off at night to save water. Sure, let's put a giant handle on one of the largest waterfalls on Earth. Maybe install a dimmer switch while we're at it. Somewhere, Canada just collectively facepalmed. 44. A man in Dubai complained that the sand was too bright. He said it hurt his eyes and suggested the city use darker sand for aesthetics. Right, let's just repaint the Arabian desert. I'm sure the United Arab Emirates can get Sherwin-Williams on the line. He also said it clashed with his swim trunks. The sun is 93 million miles away, and this man still made it. 45. A woman in Scotland complained that the bagpipes were too loud. She said it ruined the peace and quiet. Ma'am, that's the national instrument. They're supposed to sound like someone arguing with a goose through a trumpet. She wrote, they should switch to softer instruments like violins. That's like telling Metallica to try acoustic. The bagpiper, by the way, was performing at a wedding, a moment of joy, which she rated 2 stars for excessive Scottishness. 46. A man in Alaska complained that the moose were too big. He said they made him feel uncomfortable and that wildlife should be more proportionate, as if nature is a video game and someone forgot to adjust the difficulty settings. He called the animals aggressively large, which sounds like an insult you'd yell at a bodybuilder. He suggested smaller moose for family-friendly tourism. I think he just wanted Disney's Bambi, not reality. 47. A tourist in Japan complained that the cherry blossoms all look the same. She said, it's repetitive. Once you've seen one pink tree, you've seen them all. Yeah, it's almost like that's what a species is. She suggested mixing in other colors for variety. I don't know what's more offensive, her review or the fact she turned one of the world's most breathtaking natural events into a Pinterest mood critique. 48. A man visiting Antarctica complained that there were too many penguins. He said they were blocking the view and walking weirdly. You're in Antarctica. That's their entire resume. He also wrote, they smell bad and don't follow directions. He wanted the staff, there's no staff, to train them to walk in straight lines. Sir, they're penguins, not valet attendants. Somewhere, one of those birds just waddled away muttering, tourists. 49. A couple in Venice complained that the gondola ride was too romantic. They said the music and candlelight made it awkward. You literally paid for a romantic experience in one of the most romantic cities on Earth, and your complaint is mission accomplished. They even asked if they could get a non-romantic version. What is that? A silent gondola with divorce papers and a breadstick. 50. A man in the Bahamas complained that the sun was too strong. He said he didn't come here to get burned. You know, the one thing the Bahamas is famous for, the sun. And this man acted like it was a service failure. He said the resort should have provided more shade outside. That's right. He wanted the tropics to be less tropical. At this point, humanity's biggest threat isn't climate change, it's Yelp reviews. 51. And finally, the crown jewel of delusion. A tourist in Florida complained that the ocean didn't have Wi-Fi. She said she tried to post a video while swimming and lost signal halfway to the sandbar. She asked the resort to extend the router range into the sea. You heard that right. She wanted underwater internet. Somewhere, Poseidon just smashed his trident and said, "That's it, I'm done." The ocean isn't broken, Karen. Humanity is. And there you have it. Proof that humanity's greatest natural resource is misplaced confidence. We've officially reached a level of stupidity where people argue with weather. Which one broke your brain the most? Drop your vote for dumbest tourist of the century in the comments. And if you've ever witnessed something worse, congratulations, you might qualify for the sequel. Hit like, subscribe, and remember, stupidity never takes a vacation, but it definitely books 5 stars.